fashion to kick back towards the wing for Lady. Left now, lines them up. It's coming back. Ox is the biggest man
there. G'day guys, welcome to Red Time. Jared Barker, Mason Cox back for episode
11. I think we're 11. We're definitely double digits.
Pretty sure it's 11. Yeah, it was 10 last week.
Yeah.
Yes, it is 11. What a flawless start that is.
What an incredible.
Welcome back. Bye week last week. Week off, no footy.
Yeah, no
How'd
footy.
you go?
Gosh, real tough experience. No, I went up to Byron Bay, had a little experience up there, which was good fun to go into a cabin in the woods. Yeah. No one else, just myself and my thoughts. You know, that sometimes that can be a scary thought, but no, it was
peaceful. I'm sure.
It was very peaceful.
Yeah.
5 a.m. wake ups with the birds. You know, just watching the sun go up and sun go down. We did the last one at sundown.
Yes, we did.
Which was nice, and then after that went over to Mick Fanning's charity golf day.
Yes,
I
saw that on the gram. Yeah, it looked like it was fun.
It was incredible. Yeah, you know, it's an amazing experience for everyone to be able to give back to a great charity, and they're doing some incredible stuff up there with the Gold Coast floods and Curie B and a few other things. So got to help raise money up there, which was good fun, and it was a massive day to say the least. And then just hung out on the Gold Coast for a bit, which was nice. Beautiful weather. Can't complain.
Not like here. No, but now you're back in.
I didn't say
reality.
that, but I thought it very loudly. It's freezing.
It's still true.
Yeah.
You can say the truth. It's okay.
Okay. I don't want to upset people from Melbourne, but
we know.
Shall we get into it?
Yes, there's a lot to get to. Tassie's back in the headlines. Geelong thinks it's a college football team. Got part 2 of our mid-season reviews and a bit more to look ahead to today as well. We are going to start there, as I said. Topic 1, Tasmania. Does a roofed stadium genuinely impact player mindset, trade appeal, and game quality? What I mean by that is that Hawthorn and Adelaide in Tassie last week was a bit of a low-scoring mess. I don't really have an issue with low-scoring games personally, but it did spark more debate over whether the new stadium down there actually needs a roof. Yep. But this has been spoken about ad nauseum already this week, and I don't want to really reheat old soup, but I do want the players' point of view here because I think the weather's been focused on a lot. Yep. And it should be, I get it. But not enough focus on recruitment, I think. So I want to know from you, would players actually notice poor conditions like it was last week and say, nah, I'm not going there, I don't want to play there?
I think it a little bit depends on where you train also. If they're training at that stadium, probably a different environment in the sense you're training under the roof, controlled environment, knowing you're going to play in that same stadium every single other week, you know, with the home games. So there's a little bit of that of exactly how it's going to play out of where the training facilities will be in Tasmania. I'm not sure if that's actually been figured out yet or not, but I think that does a little bit. But if you have a roof stadium, I mean, it's the same as playing in Marvel. You're not really having that cold aspect that everyone talks about. Tasmania, obviously, and geographically is more south than any other part of Australia. So it is going to be colder down there. But if you put a roof on it, you know, you can actually...
You lose the advantage, right?
You kind of
have you ever
do. But here's my question. Would you rather be training in cold weather every single day and have to deal with that every single day? Yeah. Or would you just go, you know what, we'll just have the same experience as playing at Marvel, just in a different place?
I'd pick Jared Barker would pick Marvel because I don't like the cold. Yeah,
exactly. And I think most players that are going to be moving down there probably would go, I'll take the controlled environment with the heater above me.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
I get it.
And it's like we're trying to recruit players to go down there, so give them the best experience and kind of show them, hey, we're going to build this high-end stadium that's going to have, you know, these capabilities that's going to match other big stadium and entertainment arenas around the world, and sell that idea and practicality to them.
Yeah. How do you think the guys at Williamstown feel in the VFL?
Well, I mean,
been down there because that place gets windy.
That place you could kick a 150-meter goal without even trying.
Yeah, they've done that down there multiple times.
One of my favorite videos is someone trying to kick it out, and it's such a gusty wind. He kicks it out and just goes straight back over his head for a behind. Yeah, and you're going, okay, so you might as well just handball out of the goal square to try to get out of here. It's a great place, Williamstown. Great little joint over there. But
God's country out there.
God's country for sure.
Yeah, just back on the weather thing. So, are there any change room or locker room chats where players might go, did you see that game? Or do you ever talk about what sort of grounds you might not actually want to play at? Are there any grounds out there that players genuinely don't like? I know you don't like the Gabba because you're too tall for the change room, but sticking to the weather and the surface side of things, get those chats?
Yeah, like I'm a representative for the AFL Players Association for the Collingwood Football Club, and one of the things we do talk about is the different surfaces around the nation and kind of how each stadium, I guess, what the surface is like, whether it's up to scratch or not, and if there needs to be conversations around fixing that. I think at NG Stadium, whenever we had our first game, they had a Green Day concert, I want to say 2 days before, and there was a crane out in the middle of the stadium and everything else, and you could see patches out there whenever we went and played. So not the greatest, surface to be performing your art on. So there are conversations around the players around which ones are better and worse, especially whenever you go do your captain's run the day before, you're out on the ground. You're kind of checking out how it's going, the different surfaces in different places. As a midfielder, as a ruckman, very important to check the center bounce, whether it's a dry, muddy pit, or if it's if it's a dry, kind of hard area in the middle like a cricket ground, or whether it's a muddy pit.
Yep.
That can change whether or not the bounce goes one way or the other, and kind of changes the way you go about things. So there are little nuances like that. But yeah, as a player, I think you do realize just how soft a ground is, or how hard a ground is, and that can give feedback to the AFL as to something they need to do. Or maybe change the way you do a little bit of your center bounce work or whatever it may be around the ground.
Yep. Now, from one stadium to another stadium, GMHBA on Friday night.
Huge fan of this.
Geelong's whiteout.
Let's
They're
go.
calling it the kit out at the Cattery. So they'll put free white T-shirts on all the seats down there at GMHBA, Penn State style. So it's an iconic American college football tradition where Penn State fans will rock up in white and create a sea of white around the stadium. It's supposed to create some sort of intimidating atmosphere for opposing teams. I don't know if it really does. We see it in the NBA finals as well. You see the bays and sections of fans all decked out in the same colours. This is the first time we've seen this in the AFL, and the obvious question is, what do we expect and will it work?
Will it work? I'll start with that.
Yeah, go.
Australians hate Americanization. Hate it with a passion. I don't know why, because I think America's definitely the entertainment capital of the world.
Yep.
Not going to back away from that one bit, right? But you have to say there's some things they do well, and you look at it and you go, maybe we can have that transfer to our game.
Looks cool.
It looks cool.
At least
Great
at
visual.
the minimum, it looks good.
It looks like you have a bonded community all going to the footy, and all of sit there on Facebook, chats or whatever it is to figure out they're all wearing the same color. Now, I do love this because you see it at NBA games, you see it at NFL games, you see it at college football. Penn State, like you said, very attached to them as far as what's considered a white out.
Yep.
The title of it, Kid Out the Cattery.
Do you rate that?
Pretty good. I'll give, and it starts with
that has
great name.
ChatGPT written all over.
Great name. Oh yeah, for sure. And also, they're sponsored by Cotton On, obviously a massive clothing company here in Australia, based out of Geelong. So all of the ingredients are kind of mixing together to make this. Now,
premium cotton T-shirts, I hope.
I
don't know what the quality would be.
I would only expect the best from Cotton On.
Yeah.
Going to be interesting around sizing. Don't know how that's going to work.
Oh.
If you got someone like me next to someone who's a 5'2" female, I'm not really sure how the shirt swap goes. I would recommend if you're going to the Cattery on the weekend, bring a white shirt of your own, just in case, so you can fit in with the crowd. But maybe your shirt on your seat doesn't fit. I'm a big fan of it. I think it, it adds a bit of an experience of feeling like you're part of one big community that's all gone to the football. And they're playing a massive game. They're playing Brisbane, who's third on the ladder. They're second. It's a big game for them. They want to get the crowd into it. And I think this is one way to be able to do that. Yeah. And I'm not sure exactly. I want to say they'll be wearing white. So there is a visual to it. I don't know if you've ever seen a Boise State game, football, where they have a blue field and their jerseys are blue.
I'd rather the contrast, to be honest.
I kind of would love to.
Geelong's wearing their home kits are white as well.
Yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of white.
There's gonna be a lot of
actually
white there.
no. Brisbane will contrast it well with their kits, I guess.
They'll stand out for sure. The Brisbane team will.
Yeah, that's
but I'm a big fan of it. I think it's I'll give credit to the Cats for doing something different, because I think that's something in AFL we don't see too often. We're very conservative in kind of what we do. I think there's them. You look at Brisbane, I think does something that's very American, which they actually play the songs after they kick a goal. I love it. Because there's some that are like Shark Doo Doo was one of them, I think, for Joe Danaher, I want to say. There's funny ones like that. You can have a bit of personality, add something fun to the game. You can't tell me whenever Charlie Cameron kicks a goal. You don't like it.
It's a bit.
People sing Country Road whenever he kicks a goal, and the whole stadium gets into it. And it's awesome, because it gives something for people to bond over, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a great
I go to
thing.
watch the footy, not sing songs. I'm not there for a concert.
Well, you don't have children that are 5 years old screaming the whole time. They're just waiting for Country Roads to come on. So
maybe.
I think it's a way to try to entertain people that's away from just the game itself.
Yeah. Do you think this will actually have an effect on the game or genuinely intimidate the opposition? Because I don't think it should. You're a player, though. You've played in hostile environments, like you go to Optus Stadium and you go to play in Adelaide, and they're pretty hostile themselves. You play at the G, and that's usually filled with Collingwood, but I mean, you've got other Victorian teams, and there's a lot of GA sections as well. But if you're a visiting team going to GMHBA and they're doing this, you're seeing fans across the entire stadium in one colour. Do you actually think that is intimidating?
I don't think that's intimidating. I think what would be more intimidating is an audible chant that they had. You think about like the Geelong, Collingwood chant.
Yeah,
you think about like, Port Adelaide before the game. Like that's pretty cool. That's like, hey man, these people are on the same page. They all like, go there, and that's part of their culture and part of the experience. Like I think having a chant, or I guess you have the team song, but you're not going to say that in the middle of a game.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty cool if a team started a tradition of having some kind of chant to sing out whenever something big happens in a game, or there's maybe a bit of a lull, and all of a sudden you just have this roar of the stadium kind of like come up to this audible level that's intimidating for the opposition. But for me, if I go there and I see a bunch of white shirts out in the stands, I go, that's pretty cool visually.
That looks cool.
But I mean, like, there's no benefit to either team, I guess, for them doing that.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool because it's a community binding thing, which I think is awesome for the Geelong Football Club.
Yeah. I think, it'll go one of two ways. Everyone will embrace it, and it looks awesome and it works, or you get a lot of people that think it's too cold, I'm not putting a T-shirt on. There's maybe...
That's a good point.
Half of the people there just don't buy into it, and it just fizzles completely.
I was going to say this. I'm not sure what the weather is, but let's just hope it's not raining. Because if it's raining, a bunch of white T-shirts, it's going to be a real interesting experience.
No, it's going to be freezing.
It's going to be freezing?
Yeah.
Oh,
there's not going to be a lot of T-shirts being worn.
Okay.
What's a pass mark, do you reckon, for this?
What's the pass mark?
Yeah, like how many people need to be...
75% of people.
75?
We'll make it
that's
still,
a lot.
That's a lot. But I think that's
a lot of people that wouldn't... 25% of the stadium not wearing that. Yeah, that just doesn't have the same effect.
But they'd have a jacket on or something like that.
Fail.
But I think 75%, you would be able to visually see that they've tried something. And then that at least gives you a confirmation that it's possible.
Something to build on.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't wait
just
to
the
see
starting points. Just the starting steps.
Well, can't wait to see how that looks on Friday night. Moving on, topic 3. How do mid-season recruits fit into an AFL system so seamlessly, Mason, and so quickly? So the Bombers, they debuted 2 of their mid-season draftees last week, Lockie Blackiston and Archer May. And the Eagles as well, Tom McCarthy, he made history in the same round with the most disposals on debut for a West Coast player. He had 31 touches against the Blues. All 3 of those players had to move across the country. So Blackiston and May were products out of the WA, or they played in the Waffle. McCarthy came out of Richmond's VFL program. So they all had to move states, and it was a real baptism of fire to have to play straight away, just days or weeks after being picked up. It's quite impressive. So I wanted to ask you, I mean, how long does it take to learn a game plan to get used to a team structure and all the team languages? Because they've had to do this pretty quickly.
I mean, I think you look at some of the mature age players that have been, playing at a high level, whether it's VFL or Waffle or wherever it is.
Yeah.
You have a bit of an understanding of what's expected from an AFL level. It's going to be a bit of a smack in the face when you first run out there. You'll be puffed within 10 minutes. But I think you have an understanding of where to be at certain times. And if you're a top player at one of those kind of higher leagues through the system, you have an idea of where you need to be in certain times of the game and like where the ball is situated. But you look at some of the game plans where if you go into, let's say you're trying to win the game, it's really late, you're trying to shut a team down, or you're trying to kick a goal in the very end, there are little things that each team does that's different, and you really hope you probably don't get into that scenario because you probably wouldn't have much exposure with the team in that scenario. But I think overall, you get these mature age players that come in, they have a bit of an idea that obviously they can play football, right? They can get a touch. There's no doubt about that. And sometimes if you have them come in, you go, hey, I'm not going to, I'm going to be honest with you and I'll be upfront. Like, I don't expect you to know every single detail of our game plan. Just go out there, make sure you do these 3 things really well, which are the reasons we recruited you, and then the rest will figure itself out in due time. Yep. You have to understand the expectation of them probably wasn't super high.
Yep.
Yes, obviously Tom McCarthy killed it over the weekend, and that's just a sign that he has natural talent to be able to be a good footballer. But with time, he's going to start learning all the different game plans, learning exactly where to be at what times and what they expect from him. and his opportunities only get better and better as the time goes on.
Yeah, I think it helps when they are mature age players. So Tom McCarthy's mid-20s, Blackiston's mid-20s. I think Archer May's a bit younger, 20 or 21 years old. But when you're playing state league footy, I guess you're a bigger body and probably more used to playing against other grown men as well. So your transition into AFL footy might be a little bit easier than if you were taken out of the national draft and you're an 18-year-old.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a very different
Not to take
level.
anything away from what they've been able to do, like Tom McCarthy.
No, that's a credit. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, but I think you do realize of like where they come from. They go, okay, that's the closest probably exposure you're going to get to AFL level.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to sit there and go, okay, the experiences they've had have, been able to get them to get up to standard as quickly as possible to be able to perform at the highest level. They've done the steps to be able to get to that. But yeah, it's there's a few things that do come on. I have to, I guess give credit to them. Obviously, you talked about them moving half a country away or a full country away, obviously going from one side to the other. But the AFL does help a little bit, so they do provide a bit of a stipend for them to help move their stuff.
Yep.
It is crazy to think, though, to be playing local football or waffle or playing VFL, wherever it is, and then the next day you get a phone call and you say, hey, by the way, you're moving to Perth. You got to move all your stuff. If you have a missus, she's got a job in Melbourne, tough. You're coming over here. We're figuring it out. And, we had guys we recruited on a Wednesday, and they were playing VFL on that Friday.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah. So you can imagine, like, some of them haven't even met the full team at that point. And they're going out and playing with these guys.
Is that the thing where you just call out mate? You don't
100%. Without a doubt. It's the greatest word in the Australian language, I feel like, mate, because it just is everyone inclusive, right? So it's a credit to these players that have come over in the midseason to be able to perform at that level with the minimal exposure to the club and their processes. You look at these stories and you go, wow, that's pretty amazing what you're being able to accomplish.
Yep. Not that it's entirely comparable to what you've experienced with a coaching change and having to learn a new system. So you go from Bucks to even Robert Harvey as an interim. I don't know if the structures were changing then, but Bucks to Fly and having to learn a new game plan. You guys have a full off season to do that, and that'll come with its own natural challenges as well. But does it give you a sense of, I guess, appreciation for the overwhelming nature of having to pack up, move across the country and do it not only over an entire off season, but these guys having to do it over 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's got to be tough, and like you have so much change in your life. It's you probably at some points I feel like you'd probably feel a little bit unsettled. Obviously, whenever you do move coaches, I think the majority of stuff around the place, like it's not like the whole club completely changes, right? There's a lot of different coaches that come in, obviously, with assistant coaches moving on, being part of that kind of group. But I think overall, what happens whenever you change a coach is the direction the coach wants to go with the culture. Like they might have different things they prioritize, and they might have different terms that they say, like, we want this, and this to be our key cornerstones of who we are as a club. So I think there's little things like that change as far as the terminology and maybe exactly what becomes the priorities of each coach. And that would happen with these players coming over. They would go, okay, sweet. Well, one coach might have, bid contest was number one thing on their thing. And then the next one would be, well, pressure is now. So they have to go, okay, now my mindset has to shift from prioritizing this to now prioritizing what this new club is making sure is top of the list. So there's little things like that you look at would be, tough to be able to adapt to in such a short time frame. And it's a credit to them to be able to try to, shift and be malleable in that sense, to be able to get into a new club, meet new people, be able to settle yourself in a new place and try to perform all that's happening at the same time.
Yep. Just quickly on the Dons as well, it's a hell of an injury list they've got this season, by the way. Vigo Vicentini announces their 11th debutant of the season.
What a name, too, by the way.
Vigo, VV. VV.
Every time I hear it, I'm like, wow.
Vigo Vicentini. That's a new ranking. Where would that rank as like one of the coolest names in the AFL?
The coolest
That'd be up
name.
there. That'd be tier one.
I know the best name.
Vigo.
No, the best name still to this day. I tell people about it back home all the time. Current player.
Yeah.
On my team. I'll give you
steel side bottom.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, that's also tier
steel
one.
side bottom.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you could come up with a funnier name than that. And it's hilarious.
It's hard to beat.
People don't believe it's actually a real name whenever I tell them. They're like, shut up, mate. Like, Australian rules is weird enough. Like, don't tell me there's people named Steel Side Bottom rolling around. I'm like, yep, there are.
Well, maybe Sidebottom takes the mantle for that one. Vigo Vicentini. Yes,
anyway, going back.
It's a really cool name. I get it. We need to do that ranking now. So Essendon are the second non-expansion team of the AFL era since the turn of the century to have 11 or more debutants in a season, and they're only 2 shy of Fitzroy's record, which is 13 in 1991. So it gives you a sense of how depleted they've been this season as well. Now, topic 4, mid-season reviews, part 2. We started this last week. We looked at the clubs that have had a bye. The teams with a bye this week: Adelaide, Hawthorn, Melbourne, West Coast. We're going to give really quick and sharp assessments. Let's start with the Crows. What have you made of them?
I'd say definitely above where they expected. I think what Adelaide's doing this year is super impressive. I think anyone that looked at where they finished last year and where they're at now, it's a credit to them. They've becoming one of those teams that's definitely a finals, contender. They're going to be one of those that, might knock off a few people that they didn't expect. And them being up at the top of the ladder, I wouldn't say I'm surprised by it. I think they always had the ability to, but this year I feel like they're really putting, everything together to be a real solid, strength team that knows exactly what they're wanting to be able to provide when they play against teams. And it's impressive. It's impressive. I think, we didn't know exactly where we thought maybe Adelaide be 6 to 12-ish, maybe
I had
finals,
them in
maybe not.
Definitely playing finals this year. They bottom 4 last year, but a percentage in the mid-90s was like a record for a bottom 4 team. So they were never as bad as their ladder position suggested in 2024. So you could sort of see the rise coming. They pushed for finals the year before that as well. They pick up a few new recruits, Neil Bullen and Peatling, Isaac Cumming as well, that just plug in and fill a really important role.
Yep.
So, one of the best forward lines in the comp, if not the best. And I think, you don't like me saying this because I said this a couple of weeks ago, but Geelong and Adelaide are going to finish 1 and 2 on the ladder in either order.
Yeah, we'll see.
I really believe in that.
You really still believe in that?
5 more home games and 3 of their away games against North, Richmond and West Coast. Adelaide are finishing top 2 and so are Geelong, if you've had a look at their fixture. The fixture matters more than players like to admit, trust me.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, I think the fixture is the Coleman race essentially sorted.
Yes. Hawthorn.
I'd say, last year we had high expectations this year we had high expectations after what they did last year. I'd say they're around the mark that we thought they'd be. They're contenders for sure. They have a little bit of a lull over the last little chunk. I will understand that.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think from what usually happens is all this hype, gets put on them. And then all of a sudden, if they don't live up to that same hype, then we all think they're terrible. But they're not terrible. They're still they're still up there.
Which is what happened in the last month.
We had such high expectations after what happened last year that a lot of people were going, oh man, they're premiership contenders. They're going to make the premiership. They're going to win a flag, all this kind of stuff. And they've kind of just settled and said, this is the team we are. And we're still definitely growing. Still a very young team.
Yeah.
And I think that they're exactly kind of where I expected them to be. They show signs of absolute brilliance. They can beat anyone in the comp. Then they have other times where they're just off the mark. And they just don't get the win, or they aren't able to, I guess, execute their game plan exactly how they wanted.
Yeah, they're dangerous but unpredictable. I think.
Yeah,
they'll be fine. Their last 2 wins have been against the Bulldogs and Adelaide down in Tassie.
Finals team
touched on. They'll play finals. Yeah, they'll be around the mark, and some players to come back to. Mitch Lewis will straighten up the forward line a bit. They need another key tool down there, and Will Day, probably their best midfielder and arguably their best player to come back in the second half of the season as well. The D's.
Oh boy, D's.
They were doing well, and then there's just 3 losses.
Yeah, and the D's are always an interesting conversation, aren't they?
Yes.
There's always something going on
always
over there.
In the headlines, aren't
There's
they?
always a headline about Melbourne. I feel for them.
Why don't you guys just let them win? Have King's birthday. Just to ease the load on him a bit.
No, I'm not going to do that. But I just think that it's got to be a D's player at times. It's got to be frustrating. I don't feel like a lot of positivity from the media comes out of the D's. I don't know if you call me crazy for saying that, but whether it be board level or just a little scuffle, I feel like it's blown up to be something bigger than it actually is. And then I have to go answering questions for weeks. And it's like, come on. The only, I don't know.
That's probably a lack of capitalizing on what was a premiership list in 2021 and then falling out of finals in straight sets in 2 straight years.
Maybe expectations.
And just not filling out those. Yeah,
it's sort of what I said. It's like you win a premiership, all of a sudden people now consider that your bar. And say, oh, well, next year we need to win a premiership too to be happy. And if you don't do that, then people all of a sudden think you have an unsuccessful year.
Yeah.
So Melbourne's an interesting one. They do have the talent to be able to win games and be able to shake up some stuff. But I don't have them making finals.
No, I don't think.
Which I think at the beginning of the year, I probably would have said yeah.
Yeah, I had them as a sneaky chance at the start of the year as well. I think they'll shape the finals. They're very hot and cold. So they beat Freo, they beat Brisbane, then they lose to, as I said, St Kilda and Port Adelaide, teams that they need to be beating if they do want to push for finals, which they're not doing. So I think they're out of it now. West Coast.
Yeah, to be expected. Tough time as a West Coast fan. Tough time. Oscar earlier this year got thrown under the bus, and that was a whole scenario. I'm still baffled by the way that was handled, but. I think everyone knows that West Coast is rebuilding. You've got one of the, generational talents in Harley Reid over there who's, having to take on a lot of expectations, a lot of, burden in his sense of, being able to carry the team along with Oscar. And
if you're watching West Coast, that's to watch Harley Reid.
Yeah,
right now.
That's their draw factor.
Yeah.
I think for their fans. And it puts a lot of pressure on him being the face of the team. But, I think as a West Coast supporter, you go, okay, I realize that we had our premiership in 2018. We were decently going there, but now we're kind of really committed to this rebuild. And I think they're going to be a good team in a few years' time. But you do have to go through these cycles of, being up and then down for a few years and then being up again for a few years. And they're just in that down cycle right now at the moment, West Coast.
All right, let's push ahead. Good stuff. We'll be back for part 3 next week with the last 4 by teams as well. Looking ahead.
Yeah.
Home straight of the episode. Don't be surprised if...
Here we go, baby.
Freo and Essendon feel like they're playing on a cow paddock on Thursday night. So State of Origin is being played tonight, the night before the Freo and Essendon
Who you got State of Origin?
On Optus Stadium. Who have I got?
Yeah. Are you a Queenslander or Blues?
Do you think I care about rugby?
I don't think you
This
care.
is a footy podcast,
Mate,
Mason. Who are you?
I'm a Queenslander.
Yeah, cool. It means nothing to me.
Maroons, however you say it.
Anyway, the Optus Stadium surface, that's going to be chewed up. That is not going to be at a high standard on Thursday night. And there's rain today in Perth as well, which doesn't help.
Beautiful.
So I can't wait to see what that looks like on Thursday night because it's not going to be pretty.
They're going to be playing in a paddock.
Yeah.
That sounds like somewhere else.
Which we'll get to.
No, I do agree. It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, a great spectacle for the Origin to be there and for Perth fans to be able to see it.
Not ideal for the AFL.
Not ideal for the AFL, which is the moneymaker over there at Optus Stadium. So we'll see how that goes. I've got my don't be surprised. Now, a certain player who's one of my favorite players in the league.
Who's that?
Pickett.
Coxy.
He's
a gun.
He is an absolute gun. Just signed a 9-year deal, which I couldn't be happier for him because he's one of the nicest guys. I've run into him a few times in public and just smile on his face, kiddo, wife, just lovely human, right? And I think there's a thing around this where I think the media and people in general are going, oh my gosh, I think back to Buddy Franklin's deal. Ooh, people are making over $1 million a year in the AFL. That is insane. I can't believe that. That's
crazy
ridiculous,
money that doesn't exist.
Right? Yeah, that should never happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, mate, you're definitely nowhere near what the U.S. is going. But I think people should stop thinking that it is crazy to say that someone's making more than $1 million a year in the AFL.
Yeah.
I think you look at Mac Andrews' deal, you look at now Pickett's deal. I think it's become a lot more normal over the next few years to be able to see that.
New CBA has helped with that, but we're getting more and more players now that are worth.
There's more and more money in the system, and players should be accommodated for that, and they should get their percentage revenue. And it's great to see people like this be able to sign big deals for decent money. And it's a sign in the right direction that not only the players are increasing with the league, but the league is also going very well. And, it's not taking a step back, which is exciting. It's exciting for the future. It's exciting for fans. It's exciting for opportunities for everyone involved.
Yep, well said. My second one. Don't be surprised if Brisbane's Geelong Hoodoo continues on Friday night. So they haven't beaten the Cats at GMHBA since 2003.
It's a wild stat.
They've lost their last 13.
13 in a row.
Admittedly, they haven't played there since 2022, so they don't play there often. But the Cats aren't losing in the, what do we call it? The kid out at the Cattery and Dangerfield's 350th. They're not losing that game. It's impossible for them to lose.
You say that, but Brisbane's a pretty good side. I don't know.
I should not have said that. I just realized.
Just to piss you off, I'm just going to say the other way. I think Brisbane's going to win this game. I'm just going to be opposition to you. But no, it'll be tough. I think it's going to be a great celebration, obviously. And I think the idea of the kid out and stuff like that, and then obviously the record with Brisbane over there.
They're not losing.
You'd choose Geelong 9 times out of 10, if not.
Not that I think Brisbane's a bad team. I think they're better than people are suggesting now that they're losing more games. I think they're going to be okay. If they win it shouldn't be a shock, even though I said it's impossible for them to.
They need to get Oscar back. They need to get the Big O.
Big O?
Big O needs to get back.
Payne's a big loss as well.
Payne's a big loss too. I think they'll struggle to cover those two, or they've been covering for Oscar for a bit. But I think those will be, I guess, positions that might be exposed over the weekend. And it's tough to look past Geelong at home. They're a very good home side. I think
that's a serious hoodoo.
For stuff like that, they really do show out because they've got an incredible culture over there where they have genuine care for the people that have been there for a long time. And Paddy Dangerfield, obviously, he's been the face of the AFL for a long time, president of the AFL Players Association, very intelligent human, someone who's represented that club very well, hometown kid from down there.
Yep.
Everything points to them wanting to do what's best for this guy, and getting a win on the weekend, I think, will just be a great way for him to look at the whole experience as a positive.
Yep. Running out of time, but how many does he kick on the weekend? Paddy.
How many does Dangerfield kick on the weekend? I'll go 3.
I reckon he's in for a big one as well.
You reckon he'll go over a bag? You reckon he'll go at least 5?
It's over 2. That's not a lot, but
they'll stick him in the goal square. I think
20.
They'll be up by 40 in the fourth, and they'll go Paddy just get as many goals as you want. We'll just kick it along to you.
Yep.
We're going to the last one. Don't be surprised. Now, we've had a bit of a watch on this, and we're going to continue this because I'm going to give you a bit of stats here. GWS is playing the Suns at NG Stadium up there. In
Showground for livestock, that one.
Oh, man. I'm going to give you some numbers here. 19,000 first game. Who were they playing?
Collingwood.
Next one, 9,000. Next one, 8,000. Next one, 9,000, all at NG Stadium. So we're yet to really crack 10,000 NG Stadium outside of the first game. Now, they did play.
Their chance.
They did crack 10,000 over in Canberra. Did have 12,000 there, and then they had 9,000. So one time out of the year, they've had over 10,000 fans at a home game, quote unquote, outside of the Collingwood game. Now, this weekend, they're playing the Suns, Gold Coast Suns. Wouldn't say they have a huge traveling party.
They're a huge club.
Great club.
Massive fan base.
I think it's 7 versus 8 or 6 versus 7 on the ladder. It's a decent game. 19 degrees Celsius. We checked the weather.
So no excuses to rock up.
No excuses.
That's
not
great
to rock
for Sydney, by the way.
There's plenty of public transport that gets you there.
Yes.
I'm gonna go under 10K. I don't think they'll get 10K there.
They're not getting 10 against the Suns. If they do, I'll applaud.
Do you reckon over or under? I mean, their average is probably 8.5.
I went over 10 for their last game at Manuka Oval, and it was 9.
Yeah.
So
you can go under 8.5.
8.5.
Well, their average is around 8.5 to 9.
No, they'll get 9K again.
9K.
Yep.
I'm gonna $1, Bob.
Yeah, put it.
I'll go 8K. I'll go 8K. You go 9K.
I'll go. It's in the nines.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
It's still on watch. We're still keeping a very live ladder on how many people show up.
We could talk about the Giants for a long time, but we will leave it there. Mason, thank you for your time again. Go well this weekend.
Thanks, mate.
To everyone listening or watching, thanks to you as well. Enjoy the footy. Don't forget your tips. Speak to you next week.